Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today I'm on with Stephanie,
Hello.
and we're going to talk about things that we think atheists and theists can come together from across the aisle and, agree on certain things. And I think there are lots of things that atheists and theists do agree on, and we don't realize it. Or perhaps there are other things that we misunderstand about each other, and perhaps we can correct those. Because after all, we're all human in this. We all have lives. We all have families and jobs, and we're just trying to make our way in life. Uh, so we got to treat each other with respect and humility, and we can't all just treat each other with animosity, which is unfortunately what I think we all see a lot of from both sides. So one of the first thing, or what would you say, Stephanie, would be something that you think both sides do agree on, but don't realize it very often?
I think we you know what I think we agree on? I think we agree on the values of things like kindness and love and truth, honesty. I think we all agree on that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just trying to uh, find find what's true, figure out a method for determining what is true. Uh, I do think we all appreciate truth, uh, and so and there are lots of ideas that most of us do agree with, like most theists and atheists, I would say, agree that evolution happens. For instance, wouldn't you say, Stephanie?
Most theists and atheists. Well, I know that in the Catholic Church and I know in the Mormon faith that they are fine with the idea of evolution. So it just, and there are more Catholics than any other Christians in the world. So that would speak to what you're saying could be true.
Yeah, I think a lot of us do agree that or accept that evolution happens, for instance. And so, if we come into a talk with if an atheist were to come into a talk with a theist, they shouldn't necessarily assume the theist is a creationist, because lots of theists do accept evolution. Um, uh, let's see, what else is something that we agree on, or that I think both sides agree on?
Well, I know we discussed this before, but we agreed that Florida State didn't play very well in the fall.
Yeah,
Football, football season was pretty pathetic for Florida State. So we probably agree on that. We agreed that Jimbo Fisher took off on Florida State and went to Texas A&M for $10 million. So I'm pretty sure we can come to an agreement on that too. Um,
true. Yeah. Um, what would you say would be a you, like we both agree that truth is good, that we should value truth. Um, what do you think is the best method for ascertaining what is true?
I guess it depends on what the facts are in consideration.
That's a fair point.
So
That is fair.
So, and I mean, for example, if you're in a courtroom and you're wondering if the person who's being accused of a murder is actually guilty, you'd weigh all of the information and evidence against him and for him for his innocence that he's bringing. So that yeah, you'd want to find the truth in really any situation.
Right, right. We should always weigh the evidence in favor or against some idea. I think that is, I think that is a good point. That is something that we should all strive to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, people in the chat, if you have ideas of things that theists and atheists agree on, or maybe misunderstand each other on, then feel free to throw something out there. Um,
Yeah, I see some of my really good friends like Doc. That guy, he loves me. Obviously, I'm kidding.
um,
He sent some friendly tweets this morning, and we always have jovial little interactions. So,
well, that's good. um, existential transhumanist says, "I never say truth." Oh, For Jesus, I only see accurate descriptions of reality. That's accurate descriptions of reality. Okay, well, we could say that instead, I guess. Um, Also, oh well, for anyone who doesn't know, Stephanie, why don't you tell them what you do?
I'm a professor. I teach human resource management and leadership and other management classes, such as international management, at a university that's in Florida.
Okay. She also has a blog.
Yes, I have a blog, christian-apologist.com, and so I've written about over 50 blog posts on various pieces of evidence pointing to God. So that's part of the reason why I think you decided to contact me. Or actually, I kind of contacted you, I guess, because I showed up on your show last week. So I guess it started with me making that first move.
Yeah. It's like you came on the show and we all kind of jumped on you.
You know what, though? I have to say, you were extremely friendly, and so was Demi. I think her name was Demi. She was very friendly, and Melody was very friendly. And I don't want to say the others weren't, but I found, and I wouldn't say that, but I definitely found that you seemed like when I went back and listened to the conversation, it seemed like you three were particularly friendly. So I enjoyed the conversation.
Well, I consider them all to be friendly people. I like all of them a whole lot. That's why we all get together and we talk about stuff. We love. Oh, Sai says, "Oh, I think I know her from Twitter." Uh,
Yes, I know him too. I've seen him. I don't recognize the other ones, Johnny Drive-By or Duke Bonanza or Existential Transhumanist. I don't think I know them, but I've seen Strike before.
um, well, one of the things I do try to promote an accurate depiction of reality on my channel, and that's why I interview lots of people. Like for instance, I interview lots of scientists, but I do also uh, interview people from across the aisle occasionally, and I think this talk will be maybe more productive than the one I had with Dave Wotzel. Because for anyone who hasn't seen, I interviewed a cryptozoologist, and we had a very interesting conversation about the various cryptids and uh, the artifacts out of time, like his little bell, that was said to have been completely encased in coal. Uh,
Hmm.
even though it was, well, the short version is it was that coal does this normal concretion thing that can surround artifacts, but that he interprets it as being evidence that the bell or that coal forms quickly, and so it doesn't. But
So was he was he a 6,000 year creationist?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, it was a hoot because his the for him the dinosaurs are alive today because the Earth is only a few thousand years old. So there's a guy named Darth Dawkins who says, "Steph, remember me from Brett Keen's hangout?"
Oh yeah, I definitely remember Darth. Hi, Darth.
Okay, I'm afraid I don't think I know him. Okay.
Darth. Actually, I think you are a young Earth creationist yourself.
Okay, well,
I
welcome.
think I think he is.
Um uh so yeah, it was very intriguing that conversation. Plus I had the conversation with Diplomat 655, and he's a nice guy, I think.
Oh, he's really nice. I like him a lot.
Yeah, well, we talked a little bit about I think it was faith healing in our discussion, also a bit of science. What are your thoughts on faith healing?
That's actually a great question because I know that some children parents have done children a disservice by not getting them vaccinated and doing things like that and making those kind of moves. I think that we have a reason. There are doctors for a reason, and God has blessed them, and so we can go to them and get medicine, and if it works, that's perfect. So I prefer to use medicine. So
I mean,
my
yeah,
dog
that
is
was
barking. Sorry about that.
that was my it's okay. Uh, if I had my if I were at home, I would have my cat on my shoulders. Uh, but I don't, unfortunately, and so I know how you feel. Um, but yeah, I would agree. That was my position. He believes that they're, you know, faith healers all over the world using divine power to heal people, which I thought was kind of interesting. Um,
Yeah, no, there are definitely people in the world who count on that, and I of course I don't discount that faith healing can work, but I say if you're going to not give your child some medicine that's needed, I think that's a tragedy, actually.
right. I mean, there've been all those cases of like this students up in, or not students, children up in like Pennsylvania, I think it is, dying from the churches that like deny that medicine works, things like that.
Yeah, see, that's just not right. That's just a bad move.
Right.
So,
We have a question for you from the audience. Existential transhumanist asks, Stephanie, do you believe humans evolved from a common ancestor with other apes?
yes, I do believe in shared ancestry. Hmm.
Okay, there you go. Uh, so yeah, I said as we were talking on Twitter, this wouldn't be about evolution. Because well, an interesting topic. I understand it's, you know, I said morality isn't my area, and you know, evolution not yours. It's just things we don't really follow. You know.
Exactly. I don't. It's not. It's not my area. I don't study it. It's not a something. It's not actually not. It's to me that's not the make or break as far as the Bible's concerned. I focus and actually I see Darth Dawkins in here, and one of the things he and I actually kind of had an interesting and a entertaining conversation about his beliefs and my beliefs, and he is of the beliefs and also with coming from the Ken Ham sort of idea that Genesis needs to be literal, and so my beliefs, I basically just focus on Jesus Christ. So
Okay. Um. Uh. Uh. Duke. Duke Bonanza pointed out. I think this is a good point, that one of the biggest issues between theists and atheists is that the loudest voices are the most vitriolic. What do you think of that?
on both sides, probably, yeah. I
Yeah.
would say that's fair. In fact, I've encountered and actually that's a great point because I have in my travels on Twitter I've encountered hundreds of atheists and they range. There's you can never say all atheists think this way or all atheists are loud or all it just wouldn't be a fair statement. There are many different types of atheists, many different beliefs. So the only thing that they share in common, from what I understand, is they have they don't feel that there's been evidence for God. So that's the thing I think that they have in common. I could be wrong. What would you say?
That you said the atheist
Hmm.
say, yeah. I mean, I would,
I would say that's what you have in common, and but otherwise, I mean, you could
oh
have different political
oh yeah,
views. You
yeah,
could have all
definitely.
kinds of different views on all sorts of different things.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, really just a lack of belief in God. Some people are, you know, anti-theist. Some people are the weak. Atheism. Some people are believe in ghosts and you know, other creatures like that. And so I mean, you know, they're welcome to believe in that stuff, but I can't exactly agree that.
Do you watch those? You know what? As far as ghosts, I do think that's kind of interesting because you're in Louisiana, and they always have a lot of those little ghost shows and things like that out of Louisiana, especially out of New Orleans.
Oh yeah.
Do you? What do you? And I'm curious. What's your view on that kind of thing? So sometimes I watch those shows, and these guys all of a sudden they look like they got scratched or something, or they,
Um,
or they've got their little thing that checks ghosts. And
yeah, I think there's a
so,
reason these
what's your
guys.
take on that?
Well, I think there's a reason these guys, you know, are just doing TV shows on this stuff and not like actively employed in daily life. Um, but yeah, they go to like these like antebellum houses or mansions or plantations, whatever, and you know they're like, oh my gosh, there's some warmth on this wall. Must be a ghost.
Yeah. It is
Uh,
funny. I have to say it's really funny. I'm going to guess what I'm doing. I'm going to go to Savannah. Actually, in about I think when is this? Late September, early October. I'm going there for a conference, and I'm definitely going to go on one of those ghost tours. So, and I'm going to bring my phone and take lots of pictures if a ghost happens to pop up.
yeah,
So they have a
you
little
will be the
racket there. They're
first.
making some money, you know. So
Yeah, you will be the first to if you find a ghost. Um, I mean, and it just boggles my mind that these shows go on for 10, 11 seasons when, uh, we get something like Cosmos and it's one season. You know, that just
Mhm.
that kills me that we have such priorities in this country on television.
Well, that's what people want to watch, you know. So if people want to, I mean, I have to say, watching those ghost shows is kind of interesting. It's kind of fun to watch, although it could kind of creep you out a little bit if you went into one of those houses and someone said it was haunted. Ugh.
Yeah, I watched one of the uh chasing Bigfoot shows and
Oh,
or something like that. And it was just hilarious. Um, because there, oh gosh, there's just not only is there no evidence for Bigfoot. The funny part is there are people out in the Western United States who uh make a practical joke to like make footprints out in the mud. There was one guy who he like studied anatomy and animals like bear tracks and things like that, and so he determined based on the weight, what Bigfoot should weigh, and its height and all this stuff, how deep the track should be.
hmm.
And so he made like a plaster foot or something like that, and he puts it in the mud and he records people's reactions like when they come across it, and it's hilarious.
That
Uh,
is. This kind of reminds me of the Loch Ness monster or all that kind, you know.
oh yeah.
So what's your take on aliens? Do you believe those people who claim they've seen aliens?
Um, I right now I am reserving judgment on aliens. It's really funny. It's funny we bring this up because Savannah and I saw a movie thanks to Sci Strike recently that uh, so the Creation Ministries International put out a movie where they say, okay, so those people who get abducted by aliens, they're not actually aliens because aliens can't travel, warp speed across the galaxy. Rather, when people are abducted by aliens, these are interdimensional demons.
Oh, wow. Interdimensional demons. Now, I see Peter's on. He'll be interested to hear about that because he said he encountered aliens. And so now that we know that they're interdimensional demons, that sort of maybe explains that encounter. No, I'm kidding, Peter. I'm kidding.
No, yeah, it was so bizarre. Just the rationalization because it's what's really funny about it is they say, oh, here are all these problems with warp travel and with life starting on other planets because of course they're creationists, so abiogenesis is out the window. Um, and then they're like, okay, so that's clearly impossible, so it must be demons from
Hmm.
another dimension.
I'm going to have to watch that show. That sounds fascinating.
It was the crazy thing about it was that uh the so I've now seen two creationist movies in theaters, and the first one was Genesis Paradise Lost. This one, titled Alien Intrusion, had a total of 9 people in the theater. Only 7 people showed up, including
Alien
Savannah and me.
intrusion.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm gonna go watch that one. But I'll wait till it comes out I'll wait till it comes out in the on TV. My kids, we can sit around and watch that.
Yeah, it was. Oh man. Okay. You okay, so the whole thing is 2 hours, but you can really wrap it all up in about 20 minutes. because I mean that was it. I gave you the whole summary, and they spend the entire time just just talking about how aliens are possible, so it must be demons. It was so unnecessarily long.
Wow. It certainly sounds fascinating, actually. So I'll have to watch it. I'll have
Oh
to
yeah, I
watch it.
mean it was interesting. I'll give it that.
Yeah, no.
um um but yeah, it's funny stuff like that. Uh Goodness, what else? What are people saying in the comments over here?
Well, I see. I guess Peter said didn't. Maybe he didn't see aliens. I'll have to go back and listen to. I had a little chat with him at one point, and I could have sworn he said he saw aliens or something like that. But maybe I'm wrong. So sorry, Peter, if I'm wrong about that. So.
Okay, interesting stuff.
And Darth Dawkins, looks like he would like to involve people in conversations about atheism and agnosticism. So,
Well, I'm sure we can
at some point.
Yeah, we can have that talk about that later. I think what was it? You asked about Nessie. I actually just saw a video on YouTube about Nessie, which was very interesting. The first, believe it or not, the first sighting of Nessie was in 19. I think it was it 33. But the year that Nessie was seen was only a few months after the first King Kong came out.
Wow, what a coincidence, huh?
Yeah, it it was very interesting. I had no idea. Um, but evidently that's where the idea came from. Came from, you know, the King Kong, because they had like a scene where there was a sauropod dinosaur in the water, and so people kind of uh started seeing that, I guess, around Loch Ness not long after the movie. But oh well. Um, mentioned we mentioned atheism just a moment ago. I think that's kind of a thing that gets misunderstood a lot. Um, for a lot of people, atheism is simply, lack of belief in the existence of a god. But when I talk to, like we were talking about before the show, the street preachers, if you talk to these street preachers, they'll say no, atheism means God is impossible, uh, God can't exist, things like that. So, uh, what are your thoughts on that? And do you see that a lot? If
I see. I actually that seems like it's a touchy subject for a lot of atheists because I think that they all have that idea that hey, I haven't been shown evidence or I don't have enough evidence, and so that seems to be the predominant theme that I've been noticing. So.
right, but I
What
mean,
would, and actually that speaks to something that I should probably ask you, because you said you were raised a Christian and then at age 10 you decided that you were going to be a non-believer. So how did you, what brought you to that decision, or had you always been kind of skeptical when you were younger? Or I'm just
um,
wondering, because how do you one day just say, okay, today I believe in God or tomorrow I don't believe? How did it happen?
well, for me, I didn't. So up until that point, I didn't know being atheist was a thing. I actually thought it was the word that always comes to mind when I think of my thoughts regarding the first time I heard about atheism was scandalous. I thought it was scandalous that someone could not believe in the existence of God, because I'd been raised to believe in God. Everyone else around me believed in God, so it just seemed, of course, everyone believes in God. How can you not? Um, and so uh, I found out that atheism was a thing, uh, and my innocence lost. and and so I decided. Oh, the concept of atheism kind of weighed on my mind, and then eventually I decided to pray about it. So I was in my room on Sunday night. It was at my dad's house, and I was in the dark, and I prayed and asked for a sign of some sort from God, and just got silence. And so just kind of sat there for a while, and then the next day said I was an atheist. So,
So you just tried once to pray and you didn't, you gave up on it?
I
You
mean,
just,
I'd prayed quite a bit while I was a Christian, but I was always very aware that I was praying. Like, I never had, even while I was a Christian, I never had any experience of God touching me or, or Jesus or what have you. Um, and so then when I did ask, you know, uh, when I finally did pray in a very sincere way, uh, asking God to do something, uh, nothing happened, and that was 10 years ago. Uh, I'm still kind of. I mean, I'm still waiting. Ultimately, I'm still waiting, but uh, it was kind of a convincing act. It was more convincing. But yeah, Sai says, "Wouldn't it suck for us atheists if silence was the sign?" Yeah, exactly. Uh,
that's funny.
that's a fair point. But so yeah.
Okay, so if somehow you did get a sign now, if somehow something occurred and you decided it was a sign from above, you would be open-minded. You wouldn't say, I always wonder, the question is, if you did find out, say, the Christian God is true, without a doubt, without
Hmm.
one doubt, maybe it's at the end of your life or whenever it is, what would you do at that point?
Well, if I did receive what I perceived was a sign from the Christian God in particular, then I guess I would have to consider. Uh, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be able to deny in my mind the. Well, okay, I guess I would have to think about the circumstances in which it happened. I would have to uh, see whether or not um, is this, something like, I don't know, sleep paralysis or a hallucination because I haven't low blood sugar, whatever. Um, I'm not necessarily sure I would be convinced if it was the Christian God. Although I guess if it were to my satisfaction, I guess I would be. If something occurred that and it was proved to my satisfaction that it was the Christian God, then I guess I would become a Christian.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, because I've talked to a lot of people and I ask that question a lot, and a lot of people say that uh, they still wouldn't follow. They wouldn't follow or worship or do anything like that if they were to encounter the Christian God or they were to encounter Jesus. Um, so you have a different opinion, and actually, I like your opinion better. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, uh, I'm open about it. I have I have no problem, I guess, with a God existing. It's just that, as we said before, I'm just not convinced that such and such deity exists. And I've heard from a lot of different people who say with, 100% certainty that their God does exist, although they are, mutually contradictory claims. Like we have the street preachers who come here. We have these Pentecostal guys from Mississippi who are crazy. Uh, oh my gosh, they're crazy. But we also have Bhakti Hindus who come here, and they're younger, or they're creationists. They definitely don't believe in evolution. I don't know if that means young Earth, but they are they're definitely not about evolution. And so they. I was talking to this one guy who was there because he was arguing with one of the street preachers. So I talked to him afterwards, and I asked him what he believed, and he said, "I have absolute certainty that the was it Mahabharata is true, and that these gurus and swamis and whatnot have the absolute truth about reality." And I thought, okay, that's nice.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I think I think in my mind there are many doors that people can take and they all end up in front of Jesus, but that's just in my mind. But as far as different religious texts, what's really interesting is Christianity was written, the Christian Bible was written over hundreds of years by 40 different authors, many of whom were martyred. It was written by in 3 languages and across 3 continents. So it's really unlike any other religious text. Most religious texts are written by one man, like Muhammad, at a certain time period in a certain place. And so Christianity does vary from other religions in that way. And it's rather fascinating when you realize that how all of these different messages came together in the Bible and all have a very coherent message that points to Jesus.
Well, I mean the Mahabharata was also written by a lot of different authors. I don't know how many languages it was, but it was written over a long time, and if I remember correctly, I think it predates the Bible. But it's just it's the same kind of thing. You know, you got a series of stories and whatnot. The guy I talked to actually said that the Buddha was predicted by the Mahabharata, which I found interesting. It said that the book predicted where the Buddha lived, what his name would be, uh, what his height was. I think was one of the things he said. It was intriguing, very intriguing. Um, I just I don't know. I have not read it. Well, we read a single story from the Mahabharata in high school, but other than that, I don't really know.
I'm not terribly familiar with it, but it's my understanding that it was written by the sage Vyasa. So
Okay.
if you're saying it's written by hundreds of people, I'll have to go, or other dozens of people, whatever it is, I'll have to go and look that up because I hadn't seen that. So it's just interesting, and the Bible also, what's pretty neat is has 332 or more prophecies in the Old Testament of Jesus, like Isaiah 53 and Psalm 22. It's got some neat stuff. So thought I'd mention
Yeah.
that too. I'm putting
Yeah.
little plugs in here. I don't know if you know what it is, but I'm trying to weave some plugs in. So maybe it's someone who's listening might say, "Yeah, maybe I'll go read Isaiah 53 and see what it says." So,
Hey, I mean, if, I could probably link to your blog in the description. Uh, so that way after this, if people want to see your blog, they can go check it out.
oh, great.
Um,
Yeah. Actually, I did
yeah.
write a blog. I just wrote a blog post to Alicia. What's his last name again? Darn it. Ben Ayuba. I think that's it.
Oh. Yeah. Ben Abuya. Yeah. Yeah.
Abuya. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I just
I
wrote.
like him. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's actually got he's pretty funny. Because every so often I see some of these people who show up on my timeline and they have different ways that they've shown up, but he's one of the funnier ones, I have to say. He's funny. Mr. Oz Atheist is funny. I mean, some of these oh, and Professor Flynn, he's very funny. So um,
Yeah. I I don't have a blog, but I do YouTube all the time. I talk mostly about uh biology. Um, I kind of like to think of myself as, biology first, atheism second, which I think is kind of the is the way uh, to go. I'm interested in atheism stuff, but much less so than biology. As you can see, if you look at my channel, you'll see it's disproportionately biology
I
stuff.
did. I did.
Yeah,
I actually, because I went to your channel this morning and I noticed you have lots and lots of videos. I mean, you've been doing this for a while, I assume, right?
only 2 years, believe it or not.
Only 2 years, really? Wow. No, you've got quite a bit going on
Wait,
there.
is it 2 years? No, it's only been a year. I think it's only been 1 year.
Wow. So because you have quite a few, there are quite a few people on Twitter who admire you. I've noticed. I've actually been following you from afar, and I've noticed that you have a lot of admirers and a lot of people go to your videos to learn about evolution and those sorts of things. So I think that's fascinating. You're in college. You're only what 20 years old, and you have a lot of people following you and finding you very influential.
Yeah, well, I try to put out factually accurate information on across a range of biological topics. And so uh if you know people want to see that, they're entirely welcome to. And I do appreciate. I love the feedback that people give me, even if it's something like, "Oh, hey, you messed up this fact." I still appreciate that. I love that people will do that for me. Um, yeah, I made a video.
I'm
Shannon,
reading that. What did you do?
I
What
made
is this?
a video on whale sex. Yes, it's true. That means this video is now demonetized. Okay, well, um, so. So that video, because now that this one's demonetized, so that video is about Paula Gia and Shannon Q asked me to do a video on whale sex, um, and
That's very funny.
so I saw the video and I was like, oh boy, all right, well, I guess I better get on this, and so so I had not yet made a video on whale evolution, so that was a good place, I think, to kind of explain the whale lineage, which is very fascinating because you got the whole deal with the limbs becoming fins and the evolution of the flippers and all of that. It's very interesting stuff.
That would be very interesting, actually. I
Yeah,
like
it's
whales. Who doesn't like whales?
exactly. Yeah, they're majestic animals that are, thanks to our president now we can hunt them again, or the restrictions are lifted on hunting whales, from what I've heard.
Oh, gosh.
Uh,
Are we going to see more pictures of his sons in Africa killing all these animals for sport? I don't know if you
oh,
saw any of those pictures,
I
but
have not.
yeah. I'm not a hunter.
No, not am I.
I'm not a fan of hunting. I may even have a problem. I mean, I don't mind fishing. That's sort of a little bit different to me. But hunting to me is, I don't know. It's kind of awful.
Um, yeah. So the video, the whale video, um, so so I had to go look at the technical literature for whale copulation, and there are actually some very interesting papers that I found. Uh, so it blew my mind, the work on this. I found out about this thing called the Icelandic Phalacological Museum, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a museum in Iceland with animal penises on
Oh my
display.
gosh.
Oh man.
People have sick minds.
Yeah, it's it's crazy stuff. It's some crazy stuff, but I also really enjoy doing it because I love learning about I just love learning, and so
Well,
um
I'm going to definitely watch your video on whales, and I think someone says here that there's also one on giraffes, so I think I'll go ahead and I'll watch that too.
oh yeah, yeah, I just put that one out a few days ago on giraffe evolution. I'm doing kind of a series on I'm doing an informal series on irreducible complexity, which is kind of a pesky topic.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've heard about that, yeah?
Yes, yes, I've read about that.
Yeah.
I think
So
it's what Michael Behe.
yes, yeah, he's one of the leading guys in that area. And so yeah, I've been doing some research on that. I did a one on the flagellum and then another one on uh the giraffe's neck, because they're like, oh, the giraffe couldn't evolve because if it did, then there would be, or if it tried to like evolve the blood vessels, then that means the brain would blow out from the blood pressure or whatever. These really silly kind of facile arguments. Although some of them get rather technical when you start looking at things like ribosomes and topoisomerases. Uh, but interestingly, the people who say that topoisomerase, which is for anyone who doesn't know, it's one of the proteins involved in DNA synthesis that like holds it in place, if I remember correctly. Uh, there's some really interesting technical papers on the evolution of topoisomerase, but people don't. But when people are writing these topoisomerase is irreducibly complex papers, they coincidentally leave those out, and so it's like, what a
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's one of those things when you start finding facts and you start finding pieces of information, and then if you're knowingly leaving out things, I think that that's cheating yourself and it's cheating everybody involved. So
I agree. Yeah.
you should always include all the facts. So,
Yeah, I agree. I try to do that. That's why my most recent video is uh was was given to me by Apologia. He sent me a little Creation Ministries International video on, like, why dinosaur extinction doesn't make sense, and so I did a video on that. But oh man, they're saying there's a poo museum in England. Oh no.
people have too much time on their hands. That's all I got to say.
I have to admit I do have some Eocene turtle coprolite, so uh it happens. Eocene
Wow.
turtle coprolite's actually it's fairly common. It's like if you're looking for coprolite, that's probably the one you're gonna find for
Hmm.
turtle coprolite.
It's interesting. No, I'm going to go. I'll look at some of your videos. I think I'm going to do that, and I'll recommend them and retweet them and bring some attention to your stuff. So
Well, thanks. I could always
as long as
I
there's
like the
not, like,
publicity.
I'll retweet the ones that don't suddenly, and now here's the atheists. I don't. I mean, it's if it has religion or atheism in it, I'm not going
Um
to retweet it.
ab-
But I'll.
about uh one of the okay, well then in that case stay away from what was that video? Guilty by Association, which is actually one of my more popular videos, interestingly. Um
Okay.
I
No, I'll
d-
probably. I could still watch those videos. I just won't retweet them. So I'll watch your videos.
yeah, the
I'll
the
just
point.
retweet the ones that like the one on whales that looks like it's kind of funny. So.
Yeah, I've that's the one that gets people talking. I'll say that.
Well, it's interesting topics. So when do you get all the time to do this stuff? Because you're supposed to be busy in school doing your work. Do you do this for classes, or do you bring these videos to your professors or anything like that?
Oh no, no. For me, video making takes I don't know. Well, this I think writing the script is the longest part because I have to do research. But the movie making part itself might only be uh maybe 2 hours or so. It's it's just writing the script is really the long part because then I just have to record and then kind of set up a slideshow, and that's fairly easy to do. But yeah, I mean, it really didn't take me much time at all. But as for busy with school, I actually have 3 tests this week, uh, and so that is kind of sending me, or kind of driving me insane. That
Yeah,
nothing, and then all of a sudden,
I have to give a test this week. It's coincidence. This is a perfect week to give tests, I guess.
well, we also had snow days. Um, there was ice on the road one week, or it didn't even snow; it just iced everything, and so they didn't even tell us each day. Like school was canceled the next day until like 9 at night, and so
Hmm.
Savannah and I wanted to go back to Shreveport, but we didn't know if we would have school on Friday, and so it's like each day or each night at 9 they would say, "Okay, well you don't have school tomorrow," and so on Thursday we said, "Okay, if they say it tonight, we're just leaving first thing," and so uh, turns out that uh, the the city lost power and like water in certain areas because of the weather, and so they were like, "All right, school's canceled on Friday too."
Wow.
So yes, so
Yeah,
we were
that's
just behind.
we lost school due to the hurricane
Oh yeah,
last semester. So Irma. So yeah, we were out for a while. So it's
makes sense. Yeah.
hmm
Well,
but it's kind of like your school. Our administration likes to wait until sort of the last minute to let us know if we're going to be out. So um,
yeah, well, you guys have the guy, uh the weather guy who was who got you saw the interview with the guy who said oh, it's okay. So the interviewer comes up to him and he's like, "Hey, aren't you worried about being out in the storm?" And the guy's like, "No, I'm not worried about it. The wind's moving, north by northwest at such and such miles per hour, and all of that." Did you see that interview?
I don't think I saw that. What did he get blown over? Oh wait, was that the one where he was in Miami?
Might have been. I don't remember what city he was in, but he's just like going through all the facts on this storm, and it's like, oh my gosh, who would know this much about a storm?
Yeah, no, those
And
things can be serious. I mean, we boarded our house up, and I lived on the other coast of Florida and went through a bunch of hurricanes, and they're scary. I mean, they spin out tornadoes and everything else. They're pretty big deal.
yeah, it was crazy. I'm glad I've not had to deal with anything like that, because one day New Orleans is going to be the lost city of New Orleans. Uh, when all of when Louisiana becomes, or the middle of Louisiana becomes beachfront property, uh, in the next few hundred years or so, uh, then I'm actually taking archaeology this semester, and my professor said it's going to be sad to lose New Orleans, but it will also be a very interesting archaeological discovery.
That's so funny. You know, I actually live inland a little bit,
Mhm.
and so I always make a joke that if the water were to rise as they've predicted it's going to, that I'd be on oceanfront property. So it's not. I wouldn't have a job. My school would be wiped out, but I'd be on oceanfront property. So I guess I wouldn't need a job. So
Yeah, it's yeah, good times. Good times with the weather down here. Uh, although I have to say I was actually in Florida just recently, over the winter break, and so it was warm. It was nice because I my dad's in North Carolina, and so I went down to Florida, and I do not like the cold. I don't like it. I appreciate that Florida can be, 72 in the middle of December. I appreciate that.
oh yeah, I do too. So who are you rooting for the Super Bowl?
Uh
You've got
I do
the
not
Eagles,
watch.
the Eagles
I
and
don't
the
even watch football.
Eagles and the
I'm sorry.
Patriots. Do you have any preference on those two?
I'm afraid not. I
No?
keep not a, I keep apprised of football. Not at all. I mean, pretty much everybody else does, but I do not. My thing was always, if I liked a sport, I would play it, so, which is why I played soccer or football. For those of you non-Americans, we're talking about when Stephanie says football, she means American football, the oblong shaped ball. But just for
It's so funny. Yeah, that is what I'm talking about. Yeah, I know. I forget that always, that I forget that that's, when I'm saying Super Bowl, I'm just sort of assuming that everyone's familiar. But of course, if you're outside of America, silly me.
yeah, and then I played tennis uh for about 4 years, and that was nice. I don't do that, or I wish I did that, but I don't really do it anymore. Uh, Instead, more or less, all of my waking moments when I'm not doing school is dedicated to YouTube, making new scripts and thinking of new topics to explain to people. And so, uh, what's interesting and what I've thought for my channel in the future is I kind of want to go in a kind of a different direction in the future. Um, I certainly want to. One of the things that I'm kind of proud of with my channel is like the Evidence for Evolution series, and so I kind of want to do that, get that stuff finished, and move more towards explaining to people different prehistoric organisms. That's my thought. I want to
Hmm.
move more towards focusing on prehistoric life
Hmm.
in the
That
future.
sounds interesting. Yeah, no, I'll follow your videos. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, I want to talk about that stuff. I think it'll be interesting. It'll be neat, and uh, uh yeah, but yeah. So that's let's see. What are they saying? I have to catch up. Oh, they binge my videos. That's nice to hear. Thanks, guys. Uh, everyone knows the Super Bowl. Okay, all right, all right.
So,
uh, let's see. I didn't know who was playing. Uh, I only know the Patriots are involved because Mar made fun of the coach being a grumpy old man.
It's funny.
No, it will be American Egg Ball, as far as I understand that.
American Egg Ball.
I like
Oh,
that.
that is funny.
Very true, Fino. Very true.
You've had a lot of people on here that I recognize some of these people. It's funny. Like I see Demi's on here, or Demi. So hi
Yeah, I
Demi.
like all these
Jen
people.
with one N. And so I know a few of these
Yeah,
people.
yeah, I like them a lot. I've been just so absolutely surprised, blown away by all the people who have, you know, commented on my videos. Because I did this because I started YouTube because I met believe it or not, I've been a nationalist with a red sash. Is about the shortest way to explain it. And so he was passing out these little pamphlets that were like 10 reasons why socialism sucks or something like that. And so I talked with him, and he made it clear that, you know, he didn't think evolution was true, and so I should watch this series of videos on YouTube to explain or to understand why. And so I watched a few of them, and my roommate at the time suggested that I should make response videos to them because I like watching response videos. I think they're really cool, fun to watch. Um, and so uh, I decided to watch like four, or I think it was four. I watched four and did responses to them. And then after that, I just thought I can't do this anymore. This is way too much dumb for me. It was, oh man, it was so bizarre because it was just it wasn't even just young earth creationism. It was like intelligent design and young earth creationism kind of mixed together.
Hmm.
But it was also a lot of stuff taken out of context. And so I'd like go and watch the original thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is not at all what the point of it was.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Actually, have you and I tried to connect you a little bit on Twitter with Cy Gart. Have you considered ever bringing him on your show and chatting with him? He's a biology professor, or he's a retired biology professor.
Um, I mean, sure, I think I can if he's interested in doing that.
I
He
think.
talked to R and Raw recently, didn't he?
Yeah, yes, he has. He's talked to a lot of people, so he's a really nice person. So I think you'd probably hit it off with him pretty well.
Um, yeah, yeah, probably. He's a biochemist. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think so. I think so. I'm not sure. I forget exactly what his title is. I should go back and look it up.
Um, but yeah. There we go. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that'd be an interesting conversation because I think from what I heard about that Asai was brought in because some people were talking with R and Ra. They were like, "Here's a biologist who, doesn't believe in abiogenesis or something like that," and they brought him in, and then Sai was like, "Oh no, I agree with this, or with R," and I think they were kind of shocked by that, which I thought was funny.
It is funny.
It's
Yeah, I
like,
listened to his show with Aaron Ra, or Aaron Ra. Actually, I've listened to. I wrote a couple rebuttals to Aaron Ra. One of the things I do is I like to identify influential people and write rebuttals to their work. So,
in what regard?
With him, he had a Jesus is a myth video. Jesus, I forget what it was called, Mythical Man or something like that. And so and he sent me the video, and I watched it, and I thought, well, I'm just going to go ahead and identify all of his points, and then I'm going to counter them. So I went point by point through his video and did that, and then there was then I found another video of his, and so this was one where he had called himself the Unholy Trinity, and he and Matt Dillahunty and Seth Andrews. Yeah, they were all together in, I think, Australia, if I'm not mistaken. And so there was another video that I watched there, and so then I wrote a rebuttal to that one too. So, and then I decided, okay, I've given Aaron Ra enough attention. Now I'm going to go find someone else to write rebuttals. So anyway, if I find one of your videos that's on atheism, you might not be surprised if you see a rebuttal suddenly popping up on it.
Well, the video that I did, I was talking about guilty by association. So I was kind of thinking of doing, maybe starting in the future, kind of logical fallacies series. I know Mortimer did that a while back, but I maybe in the future. It's just a thought I've been chewing, and so
that'd be great. I actually did a blog on logical fallacies too, so you could even write a rebuttal to my blog.
Oh, potentially, I guess. Yeah, my first video was guilty by association. So the point of that one was, it doesn't know, the guilty by association is, I guess, an informal fallacy where you say this person has X ideology, person B also has X ideology, and person B was a moral monster. Therefore, X ideology is linked to being a moral monster. So, like, I don't know, clam chowder was delicious, but hey, guess what? Stalin also ate clam chowder. So anyone who eats clam chowder must like Stalin. That's basically the fallacy.
Yeah, that's absolutely a fallacy. I agree with you.
Yeah. So what was interesting about it, I had to ask for help on that one because he's good with logical fallacies and whatnot.
Who'd you ask? I'm sorry, your
what?
sound went out a little bit. Who did you say you asked about logical fallacies?
Oh, sorry about that. If my sound drops out, then yeah, just tell me. Hey, yeah, we can't hear you anymore. I asked Tony Hackenslash
for
yeah, help on logical fallacy because he's really good with that stuff. He's got his own blog also, and so
yeah, I wrote a rebuttal to his blog too. No, I found an article that he wrote, and so I wrote 7 reasons why, 7 reasons of counterpoints for his points.
Okay.
I have too much time on my hands, it looks like, right?
That's okay.
So maybe you do too. You and I'm supposed to be writing a test for Thursday, and instead I'm busy writing these blogs. So blog posts.
Hey, as someone who is a student, just don't give the test.
Yeah, the students probably appreciate that. I'm sure they'd appreciate it. But
yeah.
Nope, I can do that.
Oh yes. So basically, that's the first. So that was I explored the consequences of the guilty by association fallacy. People say, yeah, as Fino pointed out, Hitler was an atheist. Well, regardless of whether or not he was, it doesn't reflect on atheism. I really don't care if he espoused religion. It doesn't matter. The point is that if you say Catholicism is linked to Hitler, or atheism is linked to Hitler, whatever, either way, it's still equally fallacious. So, yeah, and what was interesting that I found out is that it's really about doctrinal imperatives. It's really about forcing yourself to unwaveringly believe a set of criteria, which I thought was very interesting. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but Tony pointed that out to me, and so I think that's a good way to look at it. With Stalin, Stalin was a communist, and it was that unwavering communist ideology that really led to kind of that were committed under him, as well as Pol Pot and Mao and the others. And so tough stuff I hadn't really thought
Yeah,
of.
I agree. I think attributing, just saying that Stalin. There's a few of them, and I've been in these Twitter battles with people when they bring up Stalin and Pol Pot and Mao Zedong, and then other people bring up Hitler and say Hitler was a Christian and Stalin was an atheist, and really they have nothing to do with the people we're talking with. You know?
Right.
So it hardly means that anyone, just because you're an atheist, doesn't mean at all that you would support someone like a Stalin. Stalin was horrible. And the same
Right.
thing is
Exactly.
whatever Hitler was. I mean, again, nobody. I don't think anyone in their right mind would support someone so horrible.
Right. Yeah. It's not so much about these other ideologies that they may or may not have had. Also, it's about doing what ideologies were they applying in daily life. You know, regardless of Hitler's religion or lack thereof, he was still applying the Nazism ideology that was still being applied in daily life, and that's what we have to be on guard against. And
Let me ask
so,
you this, Jackson, because you said when you were you said you were raised in a Christian family with liberal Christians on one side and more conservative Christians on the other side. What do they say about your atheism? Do they say anything about that, or does anyone in your family try to convert you or anything? I'm just curious. I'm wondering if well, because I'm thinking in my own family, my family varies quite a bit too. I told you how they left the church. Most of them left the church when I was in my 20s, and my dad is very much against the church. Actually, he's not against God. He's not an atheist, but he's against the church because he found some practices that he wasn't in agreement with, and so I'm just curious. So he's never. It would be the opposite in my family. I'd be the one trying to convince people, but I'm wondering in your family how has it worked out?
Well, it's funny you should ask. So as I pointed out, my maternal family is the conservative side. For anyone who doesn't know, it's my maternal family is conservative, and the paternal side is the more liberal side. Well, in a religious sense, not a political sense. And so, the my maternal grandmother especially is very okay, well, I think on a daily basis she doesn't really think about it. She doesn't think that I am, which I really don't care a whole lot about it. But she does send me apologetics books, or has sent me apologetics books. So I've read a few. I've read on apologetics. Like the first one she sent me was a book from 1969, I think. It was 69 or 65, titled "Did Man Get Here by Evolution or by Creation?" It was just a little green book. It was, oh my goodness. It is. This book was written so what, like about 50 years ago, and yet those same arguments in the book being used today. So I just think that's kind of funny. But she also sent me evidence that wait, is it evidence that demands a verdict?
Oh, Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh and Sean McDowell. It's an excellent book.
Yeah, I read that. So yeah, I read that one. What else was there?
You read that whole book? I mean, I haven't even gotten through the book yet. I've got the book in my house. I want to say it's 2,000 pages or so. So you actually read that whole book?
I don't think my version is that large.
Well, there was an early version that's just Josh McDowell that he wrote in the 70s.
Yeah,
that might be the version.
Yeah,
and then Sean added on. Sean's his son, and Sean added on his version. And so I would highly recommend that book. I'm only about halfway through, but it's fascinating.
Yeah, I read that, and then I looked up the kind of rebuttals to a bit of the different parts, because I'm not a huge history person, but I definitely appreciate history. I've read a few different ancient texts and whatnot, like the Oresteia, and everyone had to read the Iliad and the Odyssey in school, so that doesn't even really count, I guess. But so from a few different ancient literature books, and I really appreciate that kind of stuff. And so I was looking up about that book, which I thought was fairly interesting. Um, and there was also a book, Lee Strobel's book, "The Case for Christ," which they made into a movie recently.
Yeah, that's a great book too. Case for Easter is another good one. Mm-hmm. That's another one of Lee Strobel's books.
Tell me about that one.
He's written a lot of books. He's a great. Actually, he came and spoke at our church a couple years ago on Easter, and so that's where I first heard about him.
Okay. Yeah, it was a interesting. It was an interesting one. You can say I've read a few things with William, but
oh, you've read William Lane Craig too?
I mean, I've read a little bit of it. I've read a little bit of stuff on his Reasonable Faith.
That's interesting.
Not recently.
Yeah, I read his Reasonable Faith website all the time. He's got a couple of really good books. One's called On Guard, and I'd highly recommend that book.
Is that a new one?
Yes, On Guard's relatively new. And there's another one too, and I can't remember the name. All of a sudden it's kind of escaping me, but it's a very good book. His stuff is, he's actually probably considered among apologists to be the top apologist right now, the top living apologist.
Oh, Stephanie, are you being able to hear me?
I can hear you, well? But yeah, she's Demi's right. There are a couple of audio issues a little bit.
Ooh, of course I can't hear any of the audio issues on my end, so ooh, that's not good. I hate it when that happens.
I know.
I apologize to anyone for the audio issues. Yeah, I'm on school Wi-Fi, so that might be part of it. Oh, but I apologize to anyone for audio issues. Sorry about that.
Well, I can tell you, yeah. I think you make a good move in reading other people's ideas, and I've read some atheist books too, and I've read and I did that for the same reason probably as you did, is you do want to sort of understand everyone's position and what the arguments are. And if you don't read their material, you'll never be able to understand the material. So.
Right. I do read Answers in Genesis quite often. I'm all over Answers in Genesis stuff.
Do you really? So you go to their website and read? Now, I don't read that. I should probably.
I mean, you're not missing anything. You would do.
So because I have I have different views on things than Answers in Genesis has. So,
well, see, what I do is when I make a video, a lot of times I'll go and I'll look at what Answers in Genesis has on it, and sometimes links to other creationist pages on the same topic, so I can go check out those also, see what their sources are, things like that. And yeah, it was okay, just small blips, nothing too serious. Okay, all right, good. Yeah, so yeah, I do read them. I actually read a paper for the giraffe evolution video and the elephant evolution video. I read papers by they have an author named Karen Viette, and I read 2 papers by her. Interestingly, there are no pictures of her online. I don't know why, but because they have pictures of most of their authors, like Danny Faulkner and Jason Lyle and the rest, but nothing of her. Couldn't really find anything of her, which is, I guess, anonymity. So nothing wrong with that, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe some people just don't want to show themselves online.
Yeah, but yeah, I got to read that stuff to find out what they're saying, because part of explaining, I think you can better explain ideas to people if you can also show how the opposite side missed these things. I think that's a good way to teach about an idea. As a non-professor, that's just my opinion. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. So Jackson, should we bring this down to a close?
It's been just over an hour now, so I think that's probably a good idea. There any final comments you want to make?
No, I really appreciate the fact that you let me come on your show and your channel. I appreciate the fact that some people have stuck around here and are watching and are chatting in the chat room. So I really enjoyed this today. It's been very nice, and I'll recommend your channel to my friends. And if you want to bring any other Christians on, I certainly can make some recommendations to you of people that I think would do a great job talking to you. So.
Okay. Um, so, well, so, uh, thanks for watching, and I guess I will add her a link to her blog in the description of the video. And so, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Talk to you guys later.